like to welcome you tonight to the Board of Directors meeting for December, and if you would join me in the pledge, I'd appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, one of the joys of our meeting are celebrating success. Doug, do you want to take that, please?
This is not on. Now it's on. Okay. Ryan Hatfield and Kyle Pullen, would you both come forward, please? Ryan and Kyle were nominated by Mr. Tommy Lee. This incident occurred out at Lake Point. And these fine gentlemen were nominated again by Tommy. Kyle and Ryan used determination and incredible creative thinking in assisting with the removal of a delivery van that was wedged under Lake Point's portico back in October. It was a delivery van, I think it was a Budweiser, or yeah, it was a beer van. They also gave up half their day in the shop to tackle this task. Before it was over with, they had deflated the front tires and completely removed both sets of dual tires on the back so it would be removed by dragging it out with a chain. This was the only remedy that would not cause further damage to the building. Once done, they quickly aired the front tires back up and put the back ones back on so the restaurant could open in time. During this entire time, they showed patience and good nature with everyone involved. So with that, join me in congratulating Ryan and Kyle.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming by. Thanks, Mike.
We perform all kinds of duties. Thank you, Doug. Okay, at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for the approval of the November 21st regular board meeting minutes.
So move.
A second, please. Corrections or additions? No. If not, and before I start, Tia Bidwell is not with us this evening, and she has no proxy. So there'll be 8 votes tonight. All those in favor of the minutes? Thank you. December 12th work session. I'd like to ask for a motion.
So moved.
A second? Second. Any corrections or additions on that one? Okay, if not, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Anonymous. Okay, advisory committee. We're going to do the, oh, excuse me, I screwed up again. We have a video to show you.
This was put together by our in-house team, and we're going to be distributing this out via social media tomorrow.
Okay, and I just want to show my appreciation for how far we've come in the last 3 years. I think it's great strides, and I'd like to keep it moving in that same direction, so I compliment the entire group.
Lakes.
Okay, first up is Lakes, and they're going to present tonight 2 issues, or 2 items.
Let's see. Okay, the microphone works. Good. My name is Rick Yorman. I'm a member of the Lakes Joint Advisory Committee. Also, Paul Bickford, our secretary, is here with us, and Matt Champlain, our president of the Lakes JAC. We wanted to brief the board on a issue that has come up. If you go to the next slide. We've had quite a few people come and that are concerned about large wake that are being generated by wake boats. And the latest concern has been coming mostly from Windsor, but it's not just exclusively Windsor. The property owners that have come to the Lakes Committee have said that the waves are causing damage to their docks and seawalls. They're concerned about the safety issues that they pose, that they overwash the docks, that they will sometimes, that they have the potential to capsize small boats, stand-up paddleboards and canoes, that they could potentially wash over swimmers. Also concerned about boaters not following rules, that they come too close to the docks, ski or tube in no ski areas. And the complaint mostly precipitated from wake boats. And that would be boats that, what we're really talking about is boats that can take on additional ballast. So there are about 10 or less here in Bella Vista. They take on the additional ballast to make bigger waves. Let's go to the next slide. This has been going on for about 4 to 5 months for the Lakes JAC, and it has generated interest from those people that own the boats. They've defended their position, in other words, the right to use them. They bought here because we can use the boats and they can do wakeboarding, surfing, skiing, and tubing. I want to point out that wakeboarding usually is at a higher speed. The second one is surfing, which they will usually do at about 8 to 9 miles an hour, which generates the biggest waves. One lakefront owner who has a wake boat did an informal review to point out that the wake allowed lakes, and Windsor and Loch Lomond, tend to have a higher selling price per square foot. He thought that was important, really kind of defending the quality and use of the lakes. Most of the lakes in Bella Vista are no wake, thus offering many opportunities to avoid wake areas if you so choose. Another way to look at it, the areas that cover those 3 lakes that allow wakes are a minority of the landowners. Let's go to the next slide. The Lakes JAC has heard in the past, in 2017, some homeowners from Loch Lomond were concerned about it. At that point, we reached out to the Water Sports Industry Association, and the JAC recommended, and you adopted, the increased standoff for wake boats from 100 feet to 150 feet. That's 100 feet to 150 feet from the shoreline or any docks. And at the time, that was the industry standard. We also increased budget for more rangers to do additional enforcement. And just recently, the POA staff did do an analysis on the size of waves. We used a wake boat with additional ballast on board, and we filmed that, and that film is available in that analysis of how big waves are. Next slide. The Lakes JAC is going to make an offering we're bringing this to the board. We think we should make some changes. Those rules would identify wake boats, which we have been doing beginning in 2019. Additionally, we'd recommend wake boats operators have a separate sticker to make them more visible. And this is wake boats that take on additional ballast with the intention of surfing or wakeboarding. Require those owners to watch a safety video. We recommend that we go to 200 feet from docks and shore for boats. I want to come back to that, but we think we should now go to 200 feet for boats that are operating with wakes and really towing. Management feedback on this, I'll point out, the Lakes JAC first went with a recommendation of 200 feet for wake boats. However, POA management is a little concerned about that for enforcement. They think any time someone is operating for water sports, towing or skiing, tubing should be included. Also required that the wake be thrown to the center of the lake, which wake boat operators can do that, and going to counterclockwise, which is an existing rule. We're concerned about buoys, and we'd like to add a buoy if possible that is a 200-foot marker buoy so that people know what 200 feet is. Modify existing buoys to better depict what is required. It's hard to tell whether I'm in a no-wake or a no-ski area with the existing buoy markers. We think there's some potential to make it a little simpler. Next page. Enforcement, increased ranger training. I've already mentioned that we've already increased the ranger budget, so we have more rangers. We'd like to make sure that they're trained and briefed properly so that they become authorities on wake boat issues. And increase enforcement at key times throughout the year. Lastly, signage. Clearly designate no wake areas and put it on a map. And add coordinates. We think that could potentially be of help if we mark those areas with coordinates. Also post the maps at ramps at the marina and actually put them on rental pontoons so that the operators know what the mapped area is. Let's go to the next page. That's just an example of the water. We did reach out to the Water Sports Industry Association. They have some good studies on wake generation. I will tell you that wake boat waves tend to dissipate quicker than a regular boat wave, so that's important to keep in mind. Next slide. Some people were concerned that the boats are getting bigger, but we did take a look at what was done in the Water Sports Industry Association study in 2015 and what's available now. The boats have not changed appreciably. I think that's the last slide. I understand the board's going to deliberate this next month. If you have any questions, we'll...
First of all, I would like to ask, the safety issue, if all skiers and people pulling things are at the same distance, that's a safety prevention for the people on the dock or people close to their dock swimming or on the docks themselves, so it makes sense to add those to it. So it's not just wake boats we're looking at, it's anyone pulling or anyone using a device.
Yes, however, we really don't have, it's the wake boats that generate such big waves
Okay.
that can reach the shore that we're most worried about. But I think
Okay.
for enforcement, maybe it would be better to go to 200 feet for all towed, you could call them towed operations. I will point out that wake boats, when they're surfing, they usually throw the rope in. So when they're surfing, the person riding the wake is probably not holding on to the boat.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead, Jim.
I'm assuming a 200-foot restriction would mean for both Windsor and Loch Lomond strictly the main channel.
Yes, right now Windsor, Ann, and Lomond, they're all in the middle of the lake.
Yeah.
Because almost all I don't know about Windsor. I live on Lomond. On Lomond, every cove is no wake. So
Okay.
those operators, those people towing, or whether it's a wake boat or a tuber, they're going in a little circle around the middle.
And Lake Ann is big enough to have a 200 feet?
We believe all those three lakes can handle 200 feet. If we go to 300 feet, we don't think that would be possible.
Okay. Questions? Steve?
You mentioned that there's probably 10 wake boats in there.
Yes.
Are they trailered or are they actually on the lake? And do you know per lake what we got?
I don't know if they break out per lake. We can get that because we have started registering or asking that information. I don't know if many of them are
I
towed.
think most of them are residents who have them on are not trailers. They reside.
They're specifically on the lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the top of the line ones are 100,000 or more, so there's a cost barrier that probably keeps them down too.
Other questions?
And just for clarification, really, you mentioned 100 feet from the shore rules for all other boats. Are you talking fishing boats?
Our current rule is all boats that are on plane generating a wake should be 100 feet. So we don't recommend, we don't want to change that rule. So a fishing boat should be 100 feet off now, and we'll just keep it that way. Because we've had, this has generated a lot of concern from landowners and lakefront property owners, and it's obvious that boats moving quickly concerns them, whether it's a fishing boat or a wake boat. But 100 feet we think is more than adequate.
Okay. Other questions?
Now, you've got an inventory of the numbers of types of boats that we have permitted on each of the lakes, or in lakes in total, I'm sorry. So the ones who tend to be most disturbed by the wakes are kayaks?
I don't think we could say that we've had some kayakers concerned about it, but very little information about whether, the kayakers tend to go to the coves.
Yeah.
They don't tend to, 4th of July, they are not going to be out in the middle of Lowman. There could be stand-up paddleboard people and kayak people that live on that area that want to enjoy it, so it is an issue for them. But for the most part, kayakers we've heard from quite a few fishermen that use kayaks for that purpose, and they're not going to be in that part of the lake.
Steve?
You mentioned the ballast, I guess, is the main issue here, where the back end of the boat is, but there's a wedge it can create?
There are appliances that can be added to the boats that help in creating a wake. So, for example, it might be a wing that's deployed on the starboard side to generate a wake on the port side, and then they'll put the ballast for the most part on the port side, and ballast being water. Those type of boats, you flip some switches and it just fills bladders with water.
Right. So, to Ruth's sort of question about is there enough room, if you're going down the middle of Lowman, or say Windsor or Lowman, and you want the wedge toward the center, you're sort of assuming there's an offset there. Is there enough room, I guess, is what I'm saying? Does the tilt it toward the middle, does that really factor into the equation?
Well, what we're trying to do, the reason we want them to throw it to the center is because that increases the distance from where that precipitated wave would hit the shore.
Sure.
So if they're 200 feet off, if they're moving south on Lowman, throwing to the center, which would be their port side.
There's enough room there.
As a matter of fact, if I think about it, I think they're all going to have to go with a port side wake. They're probably 600 feet to the shoreline at that point on their port side. They currently do a racetrack.
Not sure about Ann.
Yeah, they currently do a racetrack pattern.
I think you did a measurement of the width. I don't recall the number.
He's right. It's about 600 feet that it would just.
At Lowman.
At Lowman, yeah, that's
But
the
I'm not
wider.
sure Ann or.
I don't have those off the top of my head, but in all cases, it's going to give you more distance to dissipate.
Ann has less room than the other two, but it's still 200-foot rule still works. Obviously tighter than Lowman would.
Very tight.
Are numbers of the boats on a particular day going to be an issue? Say you get 4 or 5 wake boats out on 4th of July weekend. Is that an issue?
No more than it currently is.
Okay, so if
Because I've
everybody's
been on
safe-
those lakes too. I've been on Lowman on the 4th of July weekend. Actually, you know what? I almost try to avoid it because of that. It's going to cause an incredible amount of churn, but that goes on already.
Okay. So it's education and people following the rules and courtesy to other boaters, et cetera, that's going to make the big difference.
Yes, we think enforcement is key.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, this has also revealed that For example, Loman has a long stretch called Tyree, which is the southernmost cove that allows boats to be on plane, but it doesn't allow skiing. But that's our concern about the signage and the buoy markers. People routinely violate that rule.
Is that where the racetrack is?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, others?
Hold this up real quick. Here's Loch Lomond, and I'm on county GIS right now. This is not 100% accurate, but it'll give you a pretty good idea. That's 1,500 feet. 1,500? Yeah, see at the bottom? And it's not exact, but it gives you a pretty decent idea. Yeah. So if you subtract 200 feet, then you're having about 1,300 feet
Yeah.
to dissipate it.
And if you look at this map, see, this is look at all these coves. So there's some on the left, some on the right, and then Tyree's the one at the bottom. They're all no wake.
Tyrese not no way, just no ski.
Yeah, thank you.
Part of it is no way. Part of it is no way. The back part.
About the last 500 feet, maybe.
It's still 1,500.
So here's Windsor, and you'll see it's 758 approximately. So you still have several hundred feet more to dissipate.
Okay, other questions?
Thanks. We'll be back next month in case you
We
have more questions.
appreciate greatly you bringing in the information to our attention. Do you want to make a motion then? Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we table this issue until our January board meetings for further action at that time. And I'd also like to thank the Lakes Committee for bringing it to our attention.
Do we have a second? Okay, discussion? We appreciate the studies and the works you guys have done and everybody on the committee has done, but we feel it's urgent that we give the membership who is not familiar with the boating situation a chance to look at the issue and to discuss it amongst themselves, et cetera, and come back in January. So we will discuss it further in January, guys. And can I be assured that one or two of you will be here to answer questions that come up?
Do you know that
Okay.
date already?
That date will be, the work session is January 16th at 9 o'clock in the morning, and the board meeting is January 23rd at 6 o'clock in the evening. So it's the 16th and the 23rd. Okay, any other discussion on wake boats? I appreciate, guys, you did a great job with all your discussion throughout the months that you've been studying it, so. Okay, at this time, recreation, oh, excuse me, we need to vote. Gary, stand back a minute. Okay, now that we have a motion and a second, do we have a vote on the motion so we carry it through to January's meeting? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, David. Okay, Gary, we welcome you now. You were welcome before, but we welcome you now.
Hello, pardon for the voice, it's just one of those things. I'm Gary Griffin, the chair of the Recreation Committee. You know, I can talk like this too, if that works. We had a meeting on Monday, 12/9. We reviewed all 14 amenities that we currently cover. They're all in good shape. There were a couple of maintenance issues on them, and those have been already addressed. From our staff reports, gun ranges were very busy in November. There's been some demand for classes in December and January as well. We don't usually don't hold them at those times. However, we're getting a lot of feedback that they'd like to have some additional classes. Phase 2 cleanup on the dog park has taken place as well. There was a holiday dance at Reardon that was well attended. It was free. We had a jazz band there as well. And from Trey Anson's perspective, the boats have been winterized now, and the disc golf course had 11 tee pads added to make it a course that's eligible for tournaments now. And that's a quick wrap up. Any questions?
Any questions? We
My voice,
appreciate Gary.
my
We
voice
thank you.
thanks you.
We appreciate your entire group, so we thank you, Gary. Go to golf and Phil. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm Phil Spencer, Vice Chairman of the Golf Committee. Chairman was unable to be here, so here I am. We'll show you these mats that have been purchased by the golf, I guess by the POA, and they're turned around and they're sold for $22, $23. I'm not real sure the exact price, to be used on the golf course. This eliminates divots, tearing up the fairways, and some of the golf groups, I think there's about 80 have been sold to date. There's 40 more on order. Everyone except a few avid golfers like these things because it's easier to hit a golf ball off of a synthetic than it is the grass, rocks, and holes in the fairways. So, just to keep you appraised of what's going on, these will be available for purchase by the golfers. Some golf groups use it in the fairway only and the tee box. Others say you can use it in the fairway, you can use it in the rough, and the tee box. So it depends upon the organization that you're golfing with, whether you can use it in the rough or not. But they're very beneficial. I have not used one yet, but I'm sure I will like it. The other thing is that there will be a tour of Scottsdale. I believe it is on November the 7th, or January the 7th, to take a tour of the damage out there, and everyone is welcome to come and attend. I believe the board has approved some money for that to be looked at.
Take care of that tonight.
And the last thing I want to mention is we had a wet year. And just to let you know how wet it was at the Highlands, average rainfall at the Highlands is 43 inches. We had a resounding 93 inches at the Highlands this year. Fortunately, Highlands drains quite quickly. I live on the 15th fairway, and there's generally a river running across the fairway. I can attest to the fact that within an hour, hour and a half, that water is gone. The maintenance people have done a good job of keeping the Highlands course open as much as they possibly can with 93 inches of rain. So my applause to the staff out there for what they did. They had 82 days of at least a quarter of an inch of rain or more. So just to put things in perspective, good working maintenance crews can keep golf courses open most of the year round. So the golf committee would like to wish everyone a holiday period and a festive Christmas and a happy new year, and we'll see you next year.
Okay, thank you. Phil, before you sit down, my understanding is that it's local rules that dictate whether they can use the mat for individual groups, et cetera, so it's okay with handicaps and everything. Is that correct?
Yes. To
Okay.
my knowledge, that's correct, Ruth.
Okay, when I talked to Daryl, that was my understanding, that it's
Yes.
local rules, and we do have local rules in Bella Vista for a lot of groups, and that's how it turns out to be with the mats.
Correct.
And some groups use it and some don't. So,
Some don't, some like it, some don't.
Okay.
Some do, I mean, some don't.
any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Phil, thanks for bringing that up, and with the mats, it's not anything that's unusual. They're used around the world. There are places that require you use them, and sometimes they'll give it to you, it depends upon the green fee that you pay. Not that we're St. Andrews, but St. Andrews does that during all their winter months, as does Carnoustie. And you cannot play the golf course unless you play off a mat. And they preserve their fairways that way because people do take divots, and it's impossible to grow the grass during the wintertime. So I think it's a great idea. I'd like to see it a little less expensive if we could find something maybe a little smaller. I know you've probably researched that, but I think it's a great idea.
Daryl has researched some and has gotten it down about as low as he can get it.
Good.
Plus the
But I'm
fact-
glad to be compared to St. Andrews.
But they also stay in place,
I
he
didn't
said,
say
better
that.
than some of the others ones did.
Yes,
They stay in place, and that was one of the big issues,
But
David, that,
With most golfers, they stay in
Yeah.
place, Ruth.
yeah, okay. I wouldn't possibly want to talk about your game, Phil. Okay, community involvement. Okay.
There. I'm Janet Conboy. I'm the secretary of the Community Involvement Committee. A lot's been happening in our committees. First off, we want to, just talk a little bit about the coat drive, which we found to be extremely successful. And that was due in no small part to the senior staff of the POA that actually did the sorting and hanging and you name it. Saved us a lot of time. We thought we were going to be there for a few hours, and we got to kick back and do only some of the work. This year, for the coat drive, we had about 500 coats, mittens, and beanies that really went over well. We had a lot of donations from individuals that actually crocheted or knitted, caps, and we're looking to increase those or incentivize people through Facebook to try and do that some more. The key part of our success, I think, was the fact that we had a coat shop, which was located open for, 2 days on a Saturday and Sunday, and we had a tremendous number of people come. And you should have seen, it was a, profoundly moving experience for me to look at the kids that came and even the adults that were just in wonder of having, something warm and something nice, and the kids were just prancing around, so excited to, have something to look pretty and, play princess and so forth. So we know that we're going to continue this on next year. We're going to do a bit more promotional activity to increase the number of coats. We had a donation of $2,000 to get some brand new coats from a local group, and that really helped bring us to that kind of better quality level than we've seen in some years. So, and next year we're going to be doing increasing the number of places for the coats to be donated, and really doing earlier promotion as well, because we found out that by moving the coat drive to an earlier time, almost a month earlier, we got people, warm earlier. So we're really appreciative. And again, as I said, senior staff I can't thank them enough for that. The second thing I do want to talk about is we're focusing on developing a new mission statement. And part of that goes to the point of what are we about? Currently, we do 2 events a year. One is the Fireflies and Tailgates, which comes up in June, and that's been an overwhelming success. This past year it was free, and we want to keep it that way. And we also do, of course, do the coat drive, and we're looking at possibly adding a movie night during once a month at probably Reardon or at Blowing Springs. A lot of people have enjoyed the movie night that we had, and we have a couple of members who are willing to support and sponsor that, and we think it's just a good thing to get out and give the community more activities, especially for the kids. So that's on our agenda. The other thing is that we currently have 4 members on our group, and we're going to be pursuing strongly increasing that number, doubling it and taking it to 9 if possible. And so
Okay.
we're going to be doing some lot of outreach work, both through the meet and greets as well as media, and really invite more participation, because there's a lot of things that we can be doing, maybe partnering with city or local civic groups to allow people access to information about what there is in Bella Vista and what kind of resources, human services, and so forth. So we're going to be talking more about the mission statement this coming January, and really appreciate the support we've received from the board members. So that's it.
Thank you, Jen. We appreciate it. And really thank you all for the participation in the coat drive. It was very well received by the community, and a lot of kids got coats that would not have had them otherwise. So thank you. Okay, we have no financial report tonight because early November, December meetings. Financials will not be ready for presentation, and once they have been completed, they will be put up on the website, and they will be brought up to date in January. And it gives you a POA site there you can look at. Okay, last month we had open forum questions, and before we start today, I want to remind people that you have 3 minutes to talk, if you would please, and state your name and your property where you live. And I appreciate it, and I have several signed up. Dot Newman is my first one.
7 Morganshire Drive, and I'd like
To the microphone, please.
7 Morganshire Drive, and I want to relinquish my time to Rick McInnes.
We do not relinquish time. We're giving you 3 minutes to talk. So if Rick's going, he's next up, so he has 3 minutes also.
Could you cite for me why you don't do that?
Because everybody's given 3 minutes to talk.
That's-
Each member is given 3 minutes to talk.
Not to be argumentative, but is this in print anywhere that I could see it? But it's not in print anywhere?
Yeah, it's in the policy where it says that you have 3 minutes to speak.
Can you tell me where, please?
I can't off the top of my head. I'll have to look for it,
Can
and
we-
I'll tell you
So you
afterwards.
can't tell me where I cannot relinquish my time, is that correct?
We have discussed this before, and yes, it was stated that we have decided through this bylaws that you have not got 3 minutes.
I will repeat my question and then I'll sit down. I would like to know where this is in print. Can you show it to me in print?
Our attorney will show you before the evening's over. He'll find it before the evening's
Thank
over
you
for
very much.
You're welcome. Rick McInnes?
Close enough. Hi there, folks. My name is Rick McInnes. I live at 6 Coyleton Lane. We recently had a bicycle event in Bella Vista, and I understand from the mayor that he took in $7,000 for the city of Bella Vista from this bicycle event. And I was wondering if we, the property owners of the common grounds being used for this event, took in any money from this event. Another question I have, and was brought up because I've asked this at other meetings, is why are we not charging people to use our common grounds? And I was told that Arkansas law is that if you charge people to come on your private property, you are held liable for them. So to that question, I say, why are we charging people to use golf courses, lakes, amenities? I have to sign in when I go to Branchwood and use the exercise equipment. So does that mean if I drop a weight on my foot, we're liable for my ignorance and my self-destruction, so I can sue us? So it doesn't seem to me to be holding true that if it's the Arkansas law says you can't have people on your personal property, and if you charge them, you're liable, then why does that not hold true across the lakes, the golf courses, the exercise centers, et cetera? So somewhere down the road, we've been sold out somehow into the Walmart Family Foundation here. I also understand that the city of Bella Vista has a $4.6 million grant from the Walmart Family Foundation to put some money into building that trail going from Blowing Springs over to Medfield, I think it is. So it would almost seem like we, as the POA, has already decided to give up that property or sell it or let them put that trail through. It's beginning to look more and more like the Walmart Family Foundation is doing more and more to run our community than we are. I still am perplexed in how it says in our covenants multiple times on the first few pages that the common grounds within the property bounds of Bella Vista is for the general use of the property owners. It doesn't say anything else in there about letting the rest of the world come in and use our property. I'm still curious as to when and where and who sold us out on that one. As much as I like trails, everybody likes trails and hiking trails, but having your backyard opened up to people from around the world. We just had an incident over at the Branchwood. We don't know whether that person lives here or walked in from Missouri or whatever, but I suspect we might be seeing more of those things. Who's liable? Are we liable again? Has the POA? And I want to know, what are we doing to prepare for the lawsuits coming our way from the stump dump fire, because they are coming and they will be here in the tune of millions of dollars. How are we going to cover those expenses? Because we, the POA members, are on the hook for that. I also see some records in my investigation today that we used to take in huge amounts of money at that stump dump without a permit. And about the time Tom got here, we stopped charging there. The fees went down to nothing. We made no money on that. And then we found ourselves in the debacle that we're in these days with the upcoming legal issues from people having respiratory issues and have a hard time selling their house.
Thank you, Rick. We appreciate it.
Yep, thanks for the chance.
Sandy Fostick is next on mine.
Sandy Fosdick, 37 Stonehaven Drive. I've had a chance to look over the 2020 budget a little bit better now, and I like it even worse. I used to work for a large corporation, and if we needed to reduce expenses, we reduced expenses, and I'm just not seeing it in this budget. We've got multiple layers of management. Do we really need them? No. I just don't know. But I don't understand why we're going out to the people for an assessment increase when we haven't done a good job on the budget. I just don't know. And then, you know, you say if we close amenities, property values are going to go down. Do all y'all know you've already reduced property values? I started going through the list of properties that we gave away for $200. All of these, the values are now less. Linda, you're not going to get as much money to run the city, because what used to be a lot that sold for $10,000 had a value of $3,000 is now $2,000 or $200. $200. We're going to be collecting real estate taxes on $200. Furthermore, I went through the first 30 people on this list that bought lots. 90% live within 33 miles of Bella Vista. And you're asking improved property owners to now allow these people to use our amenities for free and make the improved property owners. This is not ethical. And I'm just tired of there not being ethics in our city. I've got a license and I've got to take continuing education in ethics. I think a lot more people should be taking these continuing education courses. It's just not right. And I have always voted yes. We need more money, I believe, because we have not seen the end of the stump dump lawsuits. We have a problem, but the problem begins with the budget.
Excuse me, Sandy has the floor, please.
So I'm asking that you turn around and look at the budget, and I just want to remind you that in our, I happen to bring this with me, it's in the Bella Vista Property Owners Association Policy 1.07 Open Forum, specifically number 4, questions are encouraged and should be answered by the directors or chief operating officers when possible. Failing an immediate answer, the answer should be reported at the next board meeting. Now, the city council, they have adopted a friendly atmosphere so that residents can come, citizens can come and speak, and they can respond to it. And I'm not seeing that. When I've come here, I see crickets. Or people answer things after I've already left. And incidentally, people that work, 10 a.m. is a prime time golf time.
Thank you,
on
Sandy.
the weekends.
We appreciate your offer. Thank you. Sheila Heward.
Good evening. My name is Sheila Heward. I live at 37 Kirkpatrick Lane. I've been a property owner in Bella Vista since the mid-90s. I moved here in 2013, so I've lived here for 6 years. Is this better? Okay. Do I need to repeat anything?
You're fine.
Okay. I'm here to support the 2020 plan. I've heard an awful lot of arguments one way or another. We heard several today. Related or not related in my mind to the key points. In my mind, the key points are since 2001, which I understand is the last time we had an assessment increase, is that correct?
That's correct.
2001. Okay, in 18 years, what has happened to salaries? What has happened to the cost of living? And so on and so forth. Okay, so the POA has been flat with regard to income from assessments for 18 years. No one else has been exposed to that level of thing. Most of us that work for a living, we got a cost of increase, or a cost of living increase. Hello?
Excuse me, please. Sandy, or excuse me, Sheila has the floor.
The POA, since I've lived here in 2013, has the Bella Vista has undergone at least 3 tragic floods that cost a huge amount of money to resolve. I don't think that's ever been in the budget to take care of floods. This year we had floods plus that flatline tornado that totally wiped out a lot of our golf courses. It's my understanding that cost several $100,000 between the floods and this flatline wind. Okay, this is not something that you can just take out of a current budget. This is something that needs to have some kind of background, some kind of funding for future use. Good grief.
Please be respectful if somebody wants to talk. Please do not interrupt.
I'm a property owner. I care about this community. This community will be degraded if the assessment is not approved. We will lose property value. When I first heard that the assessment vote was defeated, or that we didn't get the votes necessary to pass it, my initial response to my husband was, let's sell our house and leave. Because this community is worth too much to all of us. You cannot find a community like this anywhere in this country that has an assessment that's as low as this is, even with the increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Joyce Sawyer. Joyce Sawyer.
I'm Joyce Sawyer on Dillow Drive. Real quick, I heard the report that all amenities are in good shape, and I had asked several months ago if we could do something to help the putt-putt golf course at Metfield. I live over there, and my grandsons like to, get out there and play that, but I mean, it's in terrible shape. It looks really bad, and the park is really nice, but the putt-putt golf is really bad. So if they went out and looked at all the amenities and said that they've all been fixed and updated and et cetera, that does not include that. And so I would like to see that actually fixed. To what you just said, that there's not been an increase, but when we incorporated with the city in 2007, we did millions of dollars were returned to the POA at that time because the city took over a lot of those expenses. So I personally don't have a problem with the increase. I have a problem with the way that it's being done. I don't think that unimproved and improved property owners, I think everybody has to pay to use what they're using. And the unimproved property owners, they do come here, and there are several of them, within this 50-mile radius or whatever. They come up here, they use the pools. I work in Springdale, So I know that to be true because I have a lot of friends that come up here and they don't even own lots. They just come up here and pay the fee and, you know, and use our stuff. And so I take real issue. I have a problem with the increase because I don't feel like it's going to be used responsibly because we're not using the money that we have now responsibly. And so there's no reason to think that if we pay more money that anybody's going to be more responsible. I would like to see this board make serious cuts, get really responsible, do what you have to do. It's going to hurt a little bit. It's going to hurt us a little bit. We're not going to like it. We're not going to love, you know, being told that there are things, but we have to get it. We have to get it straight. Then come and say, hey, you know what? We've got it straight, but we want it to be a little bit better and we need a little bit more money. You know, because it's just, I mean, and then turning around like you did in 24 hours and asking for another vote and laughing just weeks before that about how that's going to divide the community, and you know that's going to divide the community, and ha ha ha, if we want to guarantee it for sure, we can make it -15 or -2 and 15.
Thank you.
That's not the
Thank
kind
you,
of
Joy.
behavior
Your
that we
time is up.
want from our COO.
Your time is up. Thank you. That's who I have. That's who I have that have signed up. So if there's no further open forum, yes, sir.
I didn't get a chance to sign up, but do I have 3 minutes?
Go ahead.
Hello, Board. Thank you for allowing me this time, although I didn't
Your
sign.
name and where you live.
My apologies. John Goodman, Hanworth, Wayne. Thank you again for allowing me this time to come and speak, although I did not get a chance to sign up. Just one simple question. If by some slim chance this vote does not pass, is there going to be another one, a $40,000 vote? I just was curious if we could get that answer in the next 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
I have no idea. We haven't talked anything about that. We're waiting for this one and hope this is going to pass.
Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Enough. Okay, at this time, open forum is closed, and we will go on to talk about Scottsdale. It's on page 25, I think, of your packet.
On your board packet, management is requesting the approval of a 2020 capital project for $38,000, which would be used to begin work on preparatory work for the repairing of the 2 bridges that were damaged during the flood at Scottsdale. This would include survey work, hydrology work, permitting, roadway engineering and erosion plans, and letting. So we're requesting for a $38,000 capital budget for 2020.
Okay, do we have a motion?
So moved.
A second? Gary, discussion.
Let's do it.
Steve?
In my opinion, it needs to be amended a bit to show the source of the 38,000. I think that we talked about that in the work session.
And it states here that it will be given in January's GM meeting as to where it's coming from.
I was just looking at the motion. So I don't know, maybe that should be the part that's added.
Well, management, the board directed management to make the cuts and to report back in January. And I said, I reported to the board that I would do that. But you're now asking for me to provide that immediately?
No, just add that qualification that it would come from expense cuts.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
Do you want to do
Further discussion. We need to
So-
do this motion first, right?
Someone has to make a motion to amend, and then it
Okay.
has to be approved, but
Okay,
it's on.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a low talker.
So I would make a motion to amend the suggested motion that the source of funds would come from expense cuts, not from the water department or additional borrowing.
I think the discussion was that you would find
Totally-
it.
I'm totally fine with
Okay.
that. Totally fine with that.
Does someone want to second the amendment to the motion? Mary seconds, so now you can have a discussion about
Having
it.
discussion. Other comments?
Yeah, I think that with this current budget that we're prepared to undertake in 2020, since the vote failed, we cut, aside from the water department, we cut, I think it was 450,000 of capital projects down to about 45,000, and we cut reimbursing the water department several hundred thousand because of the failed budget. And we realize we really hopefully can take this out of, as Steve mentioned, an expense item in our operating departments because we don't have it allotted in our capital expenses in our budget at all. So I think well said.
Any other discussion? We need to vote on the amendment at
Yep,
this time.
vote on the amended
Okay.
motion.
And the amendment shall read that you approve the 2020 capital project of $38,000, which will be used towards the development of the engineering plans and permitting for the flood damage to the bridges of Scottsdale Golf Course, including the compensation for the expense in January, the location.
The funding
Funding for
for the project would come out of the operating budget based upon what Steve and what
Jim
just said.
Okay. Do I need a second on that?
No, they're ready to vote. Funding to come from operating budget.
Okay, so now we're taking a vote. All those in favor of the amended? Opposed? Okay,
The motion passes 6-2 as amended.
okay, thank you. That takes care of that issue.
The next one is on May 22nd of this year. We had a hailstorm that came through the Metfield area. The hailstorm damaged multiple roofs in the Metfield area. We have 6 buildings that were damaged, which was the main building, the cart barn, the pool house at the pool at Metfield, the picnic pavilion at the Metfield Park, the pump house, which is on the golf course, actually 2 pump houses. 5 of these repairs are below the $10,000 capital mark. We do have insurance, but for the main building, our insurance portion is $21,000, which is over the $10,000 capital mark. So we're requesting that a 2019 capital project is approved by the board for the repair of these buildings. The repair for the other 5 buildings would go into the expense budget, would be expensed in the operating budget.
Can I get a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve a 2019 capital project for $21,000 for the replacement of the roof at Metfield.
Second, please. David, discussion? My understanding this is in the 2019 budget.
19 budget, yes.
Okay.
The
So it's
damage took place in 19.
So it would take. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Additionally, we had the insurance company inspect the roofs of all our other buildings to make sure that they were not damaged. Those were the only ones that were damaged during the storm, but we, as a precaution, we inspected the other roofs.
Okay. And the other item I have is the wake boat, and we've discussed that when they talked about lakes, and that's carrying through also. Anything else for the good of the cause?
I just wanted to point out this
Please.
policy 1.07, and Ms. Fosdick was close to reading this, but regarding open forum, it says each member normally may speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. And there's no caveat to that. If someone else gives you more minutes, it just says you may normally speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
dug a little bit further to that, that's pretty much a standard throughout the HOA industry and any other board meetings. That's a standard.
Correct, yeah, if they allow an open forum, it's
Yes.
that's
Yes.
typical.
Okay, at this time, Rules and Regs meeting will meet January 8th at 4:30 in the boardroom, and that's on Wednesday evening. Thursday, GM meeting at 4:30 in the boardroom, and that's a closed meeting. The board work session is Thursday, January 19th at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. And a special member meeting assessment vote results is Thursday, January 16th at 6 o'clock at Reardon Hall. Board of Directors regular session is Thursday, January 23rd at 6 o'clock in the boardroom, here in the boardroom. And at this time, I'd like to wish everybody a very happy holiday season and a Merry Christmas, but more importantly, drive safely. Thank you. And I'd ask the board to stay for just about 5 seconds or 30 seconds afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you.